Second question for Eric, in regards to stuff we knew, but also now Hanan's information, data that suggests that a large majority of people using it for medical purposes are not actually accessing it through medical channels, presumably based on cost. I know that you touched on it and it is a priority, but can you give us some granularity on the strategic and tactical plan of how you plan to transition in recreational while making sure that the people who are on the medical side don't migrate over to the recreational side because of cost reasons? Thank you.
So it's a huge question, and I'm kind of long-winded. So let me try to do this quickly. So maybe I'll touch on three things. You're absolutely right, and again, I want to give some credit to Mark and the task force to really focus the government's attention on ensuring that through the transition period, patients aren't left aside in a variety of different ways. So maybe there's three things that I would point to try and give you some of that granularity. The first is we do a considerable amount of monitoring through the reporting requirements that exist as a condition of licenses for various producers. And this allows us to have a fairly strong sense of trends with respect to everything from physician participation in the system, patient registration, to the point that Jonathan made, purchasing patterns, authorization amounts, and how the two, the delta that exists between the two, and so forth. So our ability to be able to monitor how availability of cannabis for non-medical purposes affects all of those things is significantly high. And so we're going to invest a considerable amount of effort paying pretty close attention to how that works. I think the other piece is what I mentioned briefly in my presentation, which is then turning our attentions to some of the really significant questions that have been raised today around how and whether, but how to work within the existing frameworks that exist today, whereby medicines are approved and come onto the market, and consider how those processes, whether and how they need to be adjusted to accommodate better access in view of the many issues that you just described. So that's the second thing. So, and I don't think it was mentioned earlier, but that was also, that review process was also described in the federal budget, kind of committing the department to look carefully at the drug review process, the drug approval process, with specifically a view of ensuring continued access and better access. And then the third part is frankly, to acknowledge that groups like CFAM and others have a really critical advocacy role to play, and our program is, I think, pretty sincerely committed to working with patient advocates, working with the medical community, working with the research community, and through that dialogue, keeping a close eye on some of the issues that may present themselves to patients, to clinicians, to others over the next couple of years.